On this episode of Brian the Guys, it's X-Men 97 pre-finale thoughts and theories. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brian the Guys, the nostalgia podcast that discusses all things geek, from comic books, films, TV, and even occasional wrestling if I get my cousin Steve on here and we want to talk about it. But, whatever I'm in the mood for. This podcast is for fans of just about everything and is discussed by die-hard fans who is here to educate you, entertain you, and basically argue with each other for your enjoyment. Because controversy creates cash, and Eric Bischoff wrote that WCW guy. But anyway, moving on. I'm your host, the man chow Brian Peters, and just about every week I have a buddy of mine on here and we talk about some geek topics. And just about all my friends have kids or lives, and I take who I can get because I have neither of those. And tonight I managed to get Jure Mother Flippin' Fincherine Finchio, my BBC. Thanks for joining
Wow.
me, man. Finch, what's up?
I'm here, bro. Thanks for having me.
BP and the Finch.
It's X Day.
X Day. Previously on Brian the Guys / BP and the Finch.
Previously on. Yes.
And season one was kind of a hodgepodge because you and I started with BP and the Finch, and then just schedules and time difference and just life. Didn't know if you could be on here permanent with me, so kind of went and did your own thing for a bit, and
Nah, man, I'm gonna do my own thing.
I freaking hate you, dude. But so
Wow.
I get who I can get when I can get them because I have no life and I have no kids and everybody else does. So so season one was kind of a little hodgepodge, but we're getting pretty serious right now. We're going deep into X-Men. It seems 2024 is very much a reset year for comic books in terms of media. Definitely with like DC, the whole thing was done in 2023. DC doesn't have really like a lot going on. The MCU, they don't know what the heck they're doing. So the X-Men are pretty much coming to fix everything, and so is Marvel Jesus, our good old Deadpool.
I did get to watch the Infinite Crisis or Crisis on Infinite Earths finally.
Part two?
One. No, part one.
Oh, you got to watch part one.
It's on Max now, so I finally watched it. But yeah, that's another episode.
That's another episode.
Maybe when all three drop, we do something.
Yeah, when all three drop, I want to talk about it because as I watched part one, I didn't remember a lot of aspects of the Tomorrowverse because I freaking hated it.
Yeah,
I've hated
that's why I didn't buy any of those films.
I didn't buy. Well, I bought one. I accidentally bought two, but I bought Long Halloween because it's my favorite Batman story.
I already had that one. I think
maybe
that's the Tomorrowverse one.
Yeah, that was like maybe the second one, third one.
Well, I have that one too, so I don't know.
I don't know because that's so I don't have any physical copies. I just bought it digital, and then I was very interested in Warworld, and I ended up buying it because I'm a moron. And yeah, that's all we're gonna talk about.
X-Men. Sorry,
X-Men.
I always go off topic.
We always do. So I'm gonna mooch and watch Crisis 2 off of Tyler because if you can't mooch off your friends, who can you mooch off of? So season 2 here is gonna be very X-Men heavy. Finch is kind of my point man on this. We love X-Men. We grew up watching X-Men. X-Men is my favorite superhero team there is, with Teen Titans being the second one, or just Titans being my second favorite. So we are so excited. Finch is here in Wolverine garb. He's looking dope.
It was my Halloween costume, so I figure, hey, what better time to wear it other than Halloween?
Every day of your life, because Wolverine's fantastic. But let's get
That's
to it. Let's get
Bub.
to it. Okay. So the next few weeks, Finch and I, we're going to dive deep into X-Men history, the shows, movies, series, history of characters. We're going to get really deep in it, and we're going to work tough on it to give you all the X-Men stuff you can do. So as the X-Men jump into the MCU little by little, we're going to give you X-Men stuff little by little. So we've been waiting for this moment for weeks, maybe months, to discuss X-Men 97. So we're going to go right into it. In this episode, we're talking X-Men 97 up until the finale, and we're going to be talking about the Deadpool Wolverine trailer because so much was given to us. And ain't nothing better than X gonna give it to us. So Finch, in the words of Wolverine and Deadpool, let's fricking go.
Freaking go.
So X-Men 97. So going right into this show, when this was announced, I was so excited. Like I kind of feel, I mean, if anyone goes on Disney Plus, you can see that the quality of X-Men 92 slowly starts to drift away at the end of season 4. I mean, I think if you go on season 4, because I try to go back a little bit, in season 4 they speed up the opening song. So instead of like being it's like done. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it's weird, right? Like,
Wait, at season 4, you said?
well, season 4 was supposed to be the final season, and
Yeah.
when I was watching a little bit of season 5, mainly Graduation Day, to prepare for 97, Graduation Day being the final episode,
Yeah.
the animation's totally different, and the opening credits were sped up, and they have different scenes. And
Yeah, so, like, season 5, the whole season wasn't like that, though. I feel like the first couple episodes of season 5 still felt, like, legit, and the one I remember noticing it was the one with is it Cannonball or the kid that Rogue goes and everybody's like, "Oh, she was grooming him." But the kid that
probably Campbell.
was it Cannonball where he's like a country boy and she's like, "Oh, sugar, no teen can resist a woman like this or something." But anyway, that's where I noticed like the animation kind of started looking wonky. I was like, "What the heck is this?" You know?
well,
It's
well,
no,
so season 4 was supposed to be the end,
yeah.
and then they cut budget costs, and Saban, who was doing like the shows, kind of like sold the animation to this company that was like the worst of the worst. I forget. I think they were called like Emoked or something like that. I forget the group, but the guys that were doing Batman and the animated series, they also changed the animation because of budget cuts near the end. But they said that they would not go with this studio that X-Men went with because it was like the worst of the worst in terms of quality. And the first few seasons, the animation is very kind of try to be reminiscent of Jim Lee with the 90s, X-Men thing. But then it just came very quality. It's just trash. It's pure trash. So but if you watch any episode before you watch 97, any episode at all, you have to watch the Graduation Day, the final episode, because it directly leads into 97. And the reason it's called 97 is because the show ended in 97. The original show ended in 97. So this is a continuation of that.
Yeah.
So in this final episode, Graduation Day, things I've noticed, and maybe there's some things you noticed too that I didn't notice, but the animation is absolutely trash. Like right off the bat, it's just so bad. Beast looks weird in the face, like he's not so detailed. But I think like the coloration of Cyclops is darker. Like it's not like the bright blue; it's kind of like a darker blue, like almost like they're trying to go to Astonishing, but Astonishing wouldn't come out for like 10, 20 more years, maybe. No, 10 more years. And Xavier has a cough, and well, they're all in like the Senate meeting or whatever, and Gyrick is talking, and Gyrick looks nothing like Gyrick. He has black hair. The haircut's kind of the same. He doesn't have the glasses. He doesn't have the red hair. He doesn't have kind of the creepy like villain look. It's just this generic black hair look. And I thought I was looking at the wrong person, but it's definitely Gyrick. And Xavier's coughing, and Xavier's wheelchair is like floating in midair now. Like before it floated, but now it's like the knees are all bent and there's kind of like an orb below it. And it looks so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know.
it just looks so weird. Like oh, it just looks so weird. It's yeah, it's so weird. And Gyrick shoots him with this device, and like, do you even know like what the device was? Like I don't even think they get into it.
I think it was just supposed to. I think it did something to cause pain to Xavier to where he had to like forcefully use his powers. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
I mean
definitely
the way it all happened, it was just like it's goofy and the animation just and then you got the typical Charles Xavier you know
my
it's
it's me, my X-Men. I'm dying.
but that whole like I just remember like I've rewatched that whole series and Charles the whole time. It's just every episode is it's just like uh,
Oh,
if it's not him doing that, it's Gene or I guess I don't want to spoil. I mean, yeah,
no, Storm does it too.
yeah,
Like
but they're
like
always fainting.
oh, but Storm
Scott
always was more
for
dramatic, you know.
for Gene it's Scott and for Storm
Exactly.
it's oh
I think I think I saw a TikTok or a reel, and it was like counting how many times Scott yells Gene in the original series and how much Gene yells Scott.
how many times? I want to know. I
I
gotta
don't
find it.
I don't know how many times, but it's so funny. It's like Gene, Gene, Gene. Like it cuts to every time.
Yeah.
At least I think that's what I saw, or maybe I dreamt it. Maybe Gene put it in my head. Who knows?
Hey,
Um, but it's just
was
weird.
it Gene? Was it Gene though?
Exactly. Da, da, da. Yeah. So in order to like hide that Xavier really died, Morph pretends to be Xavier and gives like this little speech that like, "Hey, I'm okay," to the general public. That
But
that
he didn't die
Xavier,
yet.
but he didn't die yet. But like they're trying to like make it seem as okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then Wolverine, Cyclops, and Jean go to Genosha to stop Magneto because Magneto has risen Rose. He has created an army in Genosha to basically fight humans with this whole mutant army. He's been building it for like all these years in the show. But when they tell him that Xavier is dying, he stops the attack and he spares their lives. And Jean pretty much says to Magneto that, hey, your powers can supercharge Xavier's mind, and he can send a message to the Shi'ar Empire, to
Yep.
whatever, and
Leandra. Yeah.
Leandra, or whatever her name is, the Shi'ar Queen, and their technology could save Xavier. We never know why he's dying. We never know what he has. We don't know why they can't treat it. It never explains it. They just say that you have to get him off world. And like that's how they're gonna end the show. And then Xavier gives a little speech to kind of all the characters, says like Morph, I'm so glad you're home. That probably was the best. That was one of the best ones. You know, because Morph was just kind of written off right away in the first
Yeah.
episode. But it brings it full circle. Like, I'm glad you're home. I'm glad you overcome your fears and your insecurities. He says to Gambit that you think you can't be a hero because you're a scoundrel or because of your past. You think you can't be a hero, but you've been a hero all along. And
Yeah.
I love Gambit so much. And you know, I'm a bit of a scoundrel myself. So so that was so good. You know, he says to Rogue that, you know, you can't touch anybody, but you actually
Touched
have,
a bunch of people.
yeah, you touched our souls or something like that. Like it's really good. And then he says to Cyclops, You know,
A
it like
father would be proud,
a father would be
right?
proud of you, like Niagara Falls. Like that's the best part of it.
Yeah.
And then Leandro takes him, and then everybody looks up, and like he goes into the sky, whatever. So that's where we leave off. So X-Men 97 is like a year later. I
I
thought
thought
it
it
would
I thought it was a couple months later, no? Was it a whole year?
it has to be at least 9 months, obviously, but it's supposed to be like roughly a year later.
Yeah, okay.
But you have to have at least 9 months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's just say a year. Uh,
Okay.
so important thing for listeners and people that haven't watched the show yet, crazy amount of spoilers coming your way. And we're going to try to point out everything you really need to pay attention to as we prepare for the finale, because the finale is going to be it's going to be pretty big, maybe bigger than we originally thought it was going to be. Finch, like I think it's going to be pretty huge.
Yep.
Um, so the opening credits, when I first saw these opening credits, I got really emotional because they were pretty much exactly the way it was when we were kids, 30 some years ago. They
Yeah,
took
just a little bit sped up, but yeah.
yeah, it's sped up, totally. But just seeing the blackbird fly and stuff. But what was so interesting about those opening credits, Finch, is that there's little slight changes and there's little slight scenes in those opening credits. Like in the original show, like all the scenes were the same usually, like well, pretty much all the time. But in this, they're putting like little hidden Easter eggs in there, little slight changes that you
Yeah, like
don't
little
catch right away.
clips from the original stuff that obviously been like reanimated to fit to this style. Yeah, certain things like, certain characters like I is Professor X in the opening one? I don't think
He
he
is
is, right?
not in any of
Yeah.
this season.
Well, they show him like he's in there
Oh well, at
uh,
the end with the like
when they
he
run
touches his
towards each
head.
other. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Uh,
Magneto with the fist. Yeah, yeah. I think that's the only like kind of part really, but he's not in like the hero lineup real at
Yeah.
this.
The
Um,
the cards, what do they call it? Title the name cards when they come out.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's been interesting to see those slight changes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, which we'll get more into that, but yeah. So that opening is lit. It definitely hits where it needs to do. And listeners, you have to pay attention to these opening credits. I know they go quick. Pause it, rewind. Just pay attention to every single little detail because it gets important. I thought your notes might be different than mine, but these are some of the notes I have. I'm just gonna like go through the beats. I'm not gonna go through every scene of these episodes, but just the important stuff and things that cross my mind. So I
Yeah, and
thought,
if I remember something that you don't mention, I'll stop you.
yeah, that's what you're
I'm
here
good
for.
for it. I'm good for it.
You're good for it. So I thought it was funny how they changed the look of Gyrick, like originally to the way he's supposed to be, further confusing me of why Gyrick looked different in graduation day. But whatever. I thought that was important. So we immediately meet Sunspot. Now, if you don't know who Sunspot is, his name is Jorge de Casa, Roberto de Casa,
Roberto
Roberto de Casa.
Roberto Acosta. Is it Da Costa or Acosta?
I think it's
Regardless, his family is rich.
Rich. I'm rich, bitch. but what I didn't understand of this scene though is so we're seeing the Friends of Humanity again, and we're seeing them have Sentinel technology, Sentinel guns on their hands.
Looking like Mega Man.
Look, yeah, the Mega Man gun. We're
Mega
just
Man
gonna
cannon.
we're just gonna call it the Mega Man gun. So the Mega Man they have these mutant collars now that can suppress abilities if they throw them on it. But what I don't understand is if Sunspot is rich, for one, and two, doesn't show his powers because he's trying to hide it from his family and general public, how do they know that he's a mutant? Because he wasn't showing his powers, and they didn't even know who he was when they got him. So did I
You
miss
know,
something? Like,
No, I think it was. I mean, obviously they have some type of Sentinel tech, so I'm assuming they have something that can, I mean, the Sentinels have like scanners or something that detect mutants. Mutant detected, So I'm assuming they had something like that.
yeah, we don't see it, but let's just write that into continuity. But yeah, that was cool. So then we see an reintroduction of Storm. Storm has a mohawk now. Do you like Storm with the mohawk, or you like her with long hair?
It feels modernized with the mohawk, so it looks good. She looks great, but I did miss the long hair. The big puffy '90s long hair. I mean, everybody's hairstyle is more contemporary to like the actual '90s, I guess.
Yeah,
Because I guess like when the X-Men cartoon from '92 is when it premiered, right?
yeah, 92. Yeah,
And I'm assuming like really a lot of those were based off of '80s cartoons, or not '80s. Yeah, maybe '80s cartoons, '80s comics, right? When in the '80s it was the big hair. '90s wasn't big
well,
hair.
so
In real
there.
life, '80s was big hair. Like if you ever look at a photo from
Oh
your
my gosh,
mom
yeah.
or
Oh
your
good
aunt
gosh,
or
yeah.
somebody
Oh boy.
from the '80s is big hair. '90s we had mullets,
Well, 90,
mohawks,
90s
and
girls,
yeah,
found the
the
straightener.
Rachel, the Rachel, yeah,
Rachel, yes,
yeah,
and the wasp haircut.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like that was totally a 90s haircut. The short, like whatever. Yeah, and the Rachel, of course. Lost a train of thought. Anyway, I think
You were
Storm looks.
asking about her hair, yes.
Yeah, I think Storm looks great with the mohawk. I guess I guess I prefer the long hair, but I think Storm looks pretty dope with a with a with a with a mohawk.
Yeah.
Storm and Rogue are without a doubt like my favorite female superheroes.
Yeah.
Storm is my wife's favorite X Men. I think Storm is probably my favorite female superhero. I think I have to rank her. Like she's a leader. She's a badass. She has an amazing heart. She marries Black Panther in the comics,
Yeah.
which we could still get. We could still get. It just would be the different generation. No, okay. At the end of Wakanda Forever, where it's revealed that Black Panther has a son,
T'Challa Jr. Yeah.
and that kid's like I don't know 8 or so,
I think it was like, yeah, between 5 and 8.
something like
But I
that.
mean, obviously, when we get to like Secret Wars and stuff, time travel and all that stuff is already, we got the TVA, we got all this stuff. Age them up. That's all we need. Let's go.
You're right. You're right. But anyway, it would probably be that or a whole new Black Panther. Who knows? So, anywho, Storm's a badass. I really love Bishop on the team. I really, really love Bishop on the team
Yeah, it
because,
sucked that. Well, I mean, I don't want to spoil stuff, but I mean, we're everything's gonna be spoiled eventually, right?
well, Bishop's
Um,
not on the
yeah,
team very long, which we'll get to.
yes, yeah, there you go.
But my gosh, like, how great of an asset is freaking Bishop? Like, just being able to channel
Well,
energy.
in the first episode, did he do anything though? I know I believe it was the second or the third one, he has his moment to shine.
Oh, in the third episode against a new villain, yes, he total badass.
Yeah,
In this one, he gets shot at and then he just reflects energy back. And
which is what he does. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
his powers.
Like Sebastian, Shaw. But Bishop just, yeah, such a huge asset. I love him being part of the team. I love seeing Cyclops use his blasts to be able to maneuver around because,
Yeah, he
like,
starts like sliding around with it, like it's
so
pushing him
cool.
back, and just the way he's
Uh,
moving and stuff. Oh,
so
it was
cool.
awesome.
Like this
And this is
show.
like the opening scene, right? This
Yeah.
is the opening
Yeah,
scene
this
of
is
the
still the
show.
opening scene. This is still, like,
So
them
this is
coming in.
what sets the bar for X-Men '97. You're like, bro, look how Cyclops is moving. Like, yeah.
He's just shooting the ground, moving this way, moving that way. Awesome. Totally awesome.
He says his iconic knot when they're like they take his glasses or like they wrap him
"You
up and they take
surrender?"
his
Or he's like, "I
glasses.
surrender."
He's like, "Oh no, don't." Yeah. He's like, "I surrender." Not.
Not.
Yeah.
Love it. Remember the 90s when people used to say like "not" all the time,
Right.
or like we would say
Say psych.
"psych."
Psych.
Oh, I just want someone to say "psych." So we get reintroduced to Morph in this show as kind of like a full team member too. What do you think of Morph's face? Like, I think that was an interesting change.
I'm cool with it. I mean, obviously they described there was a bunch of interviews and stuff that went through where they were like, "Oh, we're describing this character as non-binary," and it generated buzz and all the haters out there,
So many
the
haters.
guys in their the guys in their basement. Oh, why they're woke, yeah. But it's like, going back to the original. I mean, Morph is a character created for this show, like not just this show, but
Exactly.
the original. He was based off the character of Mimic, but they didn't have the rights to Mimic for some reason or something like that. So they created Morph. In the original, there's many times where Morph turned into females, males, yeah, and he's doing all kinds of stuff. So,
I
or I guess,
they yeah,
non-binary,
they
right?
yeah,
Sorry, uh,
exactly, they.
but I
Um,
mean, his primary form that he takes when he's not, he's a he. He's Morph. He
yeah, I mean, they haven't gone in to say, like, Morph being like, "I'm they, them," or, he, him, whatever. They haven't gone into that. Like, the only thing they're saying, I mean, we'll see in a little later episode, is Morph can be anybody. And what I really loved in this show when it comes to Morph is that they're having morph into little X-Men cameos. Like be it
yeah,
Psylocke, Colossus, Psylocke, Colossus, Blob, and he can take
uh,
their powers.
magic.
Yeah, magic. I think it's on Marrow. I think he does Marrow.
Yeah, yeah, with like the
Um,
spikes, right? Or
yeah, yeah, it's in a later episode. Who else? Angel,
Now,
Angel for sure.
obviously he's created for this show,
Yeah,
but like, does the character that he was based off, I believe, Mimic, does that person just literally he can like mimic individual powers? Because like unlike Mystique, I believe Mystique doesn't get people's abilities. She just can turn into them, right?
see, that's
Like I remember
that's a
in
big
the
debate
in the
because
X-Men.
I don't think no, I don't think Mystique. Yeah, Mystique can't copy abilities that I can remember, but Morph
Yeah,
can.
like in the X-Men comic or the X-Men movie, the first one, when they're at the Liberty Island and she turns into Wolverine, he cuts her claws like, like cuz they're not adamantium or
Yeah,
whatever. So,
it's like purely
um
cosmetic. Yeah,
yeah. But no, I mean, I think it's cool that Morph turns into people and has their abilities also. Like obviously when we get to him, he can fly when he turns into Angel, or he can shoot blasts, or he's like strong when he turns into somebody else. You know what I mean? So I think that's cool.
I love it. I definitely love it because it gives them more value. It's given them more value than just like changing for gags, and that's kind of what they had in the first show. So also we see Gambit in this crop top, and a lot of people gave like a lot of crap for that, but like this was the '90s, like that's what dudes wore. It's just whatever.
I'm trying to remember if I were. I mean, I was in the '90s. We were young, I mean, we're old now, but we were still young. But
We didn't set the world on
yeah,
fire yet, though.
I don't think I wore a crop top, but maybe I did. I was trying to remember.
I probably would have kicked your ass if you did. Like, what are you doing? Like in Scary Movie with Marlon Wayans. Do I look gay? No, man, you look fine. Okay, how about now?
Now, how about now? He's like, yeah. He's like, all right.
All right. But yeah, crop top. I don't know, but I don't know. It's okay with Gambit because we whatever. I want some of Gambit's beignets. I bet they're fantastic, and we do see that Jean Grey is crazy pregnant. Like she is like full term. She's
She
ready to
about
go.
to pop.
She gonna pop your pop, pop pop pop.
Bang, bang, bang.
You like pregnant women, Georgie? They about to pop, pop, pop.
Wow.
Oh, geez. Okay, moving on. Okay, yeah. So the team goes after like Bulver Trask and Gyrick because the Sentinels are out there. You gotta watch this episode; it's so good. But you see, without a doubt, one of the most badass X-Men fight sequences of all time. Cyclops jumps out of a plane and
Well, Sentinel shoots down the plane. Yeah.
Sentinel shoots. My apologies. Sentinel shoots on a plane. Cyclops uses optic blast to help himself land. So cool. We pretty much get that Sentinel fight that's in the opening credits that we never like really saw in the 90s show, but we see Rogue flip a Sentinel. We
Like
see
suplex.
let's do X, yeah. Yeah. Given a bit of like, well, it's not the right angle, but
Or no, it's RKO, right?
somewhat of an
Yeah.
RKO in a sense.
Yeah. Beast gets in there, busts open one, and starts like piloting it from the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
But probably and then Cyclops does the thing. He does the thing. He says the thing. To me, my
My
X-Men.
X-Men.
Love it.
Yeah. And then Gambit and Wolverine. Gambit
That's
jumps on
probably the
Wolverine's
most
back, charges up his claws, starts running. Now somebody somebody pointed out though, like I mean, it may work because it's Wolverine, but that's not exactly how Gambit's powers work, right? Obviously they explode. Like when he charges stuff up, it explodes. So I don't know if
well,
it's because it's adamantium or because it's Wolverine, he has a healing factor, but him charging up Wolverine's claws like that wouldn't be effective to an extent. I mean, at least that's what like somebody brought it up, and I was like, you're right. Like that's yeah, but it looked awesome.
it looks freaking awesome. But I
Yeah.
think I think what they're trying to get is that, adamantium is not going to explode because it's adamantium. If it was vibranium,
Oh yeah,
I don't think I think that Gambit's powers can't work on vibranium
because
because
of
it
the
absorbs
kinetic.
the kinetic energy. Like, so
Well,
it won't explode.
based off of the MCU,
I
no, I
wonder.
guess Cap's shield is like that too, right?
Oh
That's how
no,
it can bounce around
I
because
never
it's
seen in
the
the
kinetic.
comics if okay, any listener or any fan that knows if Gambit's powers can work on vibranium, let us know because I don't think it can, but let us know. Um,
Yes, thank you.
but it's totally awesome. Bishop gets another sign to shine. I love when Cyclops says the line, "Give him the forecast."
Oh yeah, that part was sweet, man.
My gosh.
He's just walking. Ooh,
Like
what?
she's like it's where they're like in the desert and like as lightning strikes, she's making glass all around her in the sand.
And what does the Sentinel say? Omega level threat detected, or Omega level mutant detected, and she's just walking through with the lightning, turning the sand into glass.
Thunder.
Yeah,
I into the
lightning and
thunder.
thunder. So
I into the thunder.
yeah,
Um,
and it's a beautiful shot. It looks awesome with her mohawk hair flowing, with the cape behind her, and she's like, I don't know. It's beautiful, and
it's
it
just
shows how
it's
badass Storm is.
so good. Like
Yeah,
it was a perfect it was a
perfect
perfect
storm.
intro.
It
Perfect
was a
storm. There it
perfect
is.
storm.
Perfect storm.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just it was so badass. I think I even put in my notes, is Storm the most badass female superhero? The answer is yes. Yes. In my
Yeah, I mean, she's
I
yeah,
mean, because Wonder Woman, she's a hell of a warrior. She can fight. She's basically immortal and stuff. She has the last one stuff. But like, you know, the strength and the immortality, like, Superman has that stuff too. Like, a lot of female superheroes have that super strength and vulnerability. Storm has none of that. She just controls the weather.
and she has a fear. like a human fear that like somebody of her abilities and talents shouldn't be afraid of something so dumb and simplistic like that. You know, she's claustrophobic,
Yeah.
obviously. We
Yeah.
learned that in the original. And it's like for being as powerful and as strong and dealing with everything she's dealt with, she's afraid of his tiny spaces. You know what I mean? And
Little,
that's
little
what
bitty
makes her
spaces.
that itty bitty spaces. That's what makes her such a great character, you know? She's flawed, she's amazing, and
And she's
yeah.
such a leader. She is an amazing
Oh
leader.
yeah.
Um,
And I hope we see her in Deadpool. You know, we bring back Miss Halle Berry and
oh,
she gets her moment to shine.
she needs, yeah, she really does because they didn't do her justice. They really didn't. Other notes here is I liked seeing Cyclops' eyes through the visor. I really like that because a
Yeah.
lot of times we don't see that little bit of humanity and like stuff with Cyclops. It's just these little details that I like. Yeah, so Cyclops and Jean also want to leave the X-Men to raise their kid, which does it. So the original plan, which I'll get to in a bit, the original plan for Cyclops at this time when Claremont came in was he wanted Nathaniel Summers to be born, and he wanted Cyclops to retire with Jean in Alaska, and just kind of like because Claremont said, if I have the notes here, oh, my apologies. Okay, yeah, the original storyline was that. Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it in a bit, but I have a bookmark here because I don't want to spoil anything just yet. I don't want to jump too ahead. Yeah, Cyclops and Jean want to leave, raise a kid, and the episode ends with a big cliffhanger that Charles has left Magneto in charge of the X Men. Yeah,
Yeah.
big, huge cliffhanger.
And then what does he say? He says Charles has left the X-Men to me, my X. Basically,
So,
I don't know exactly the words, but he says to me, my X-Men, and you're like, damn,
yeah,
yeah,
it was, yeah, and we knew that was going to come. Obviously, it was awesome. So going into episode two,
Run
uh,
real quick before we get it, we move on.
yeah, but
We never talked about any of the behind the scenes stuff that happened. Literally, like either a couple of days or a week before the show was supposed to premiere.
oh, I did skip over that in my notes.
Like, so
My
the
apologies.
creator of this show, Bo DeMayo,
That's the first note I put down. Dang it.
was fired like the day before they dropped the episode. Like, so they dropped the episodes to the public, but they did like a premiere screening or something. And it was announced like the day before that they fired the showrunner, like the creator of the show. And he was like, he just like disappeared off of social media, and Disney didn't want to like talk about it. And you know, people were speculating dude had like a OnlyFans and stuff like that. Like, I mean, if bro had an OnlyFans, I ain't subscribing, but I subscribed to X Men '97, so let bro come back. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's making an awesome show, or he made an awesome show, and they even had him like I think he already wrote like season 2 and was already working on season 2 before all this happened too. So I don't know. I just felt like we needed to kind of touch on that a little bit
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah. No, that's the first note I wrote. Thanks for catching that. I don't get it. I like he even had himself put into an episode like briefly. That was cool. Um,
Episode 5. Yeah.
episode 5. Yeah, I think that what's his name, Bo. Yeah, I think Bo's did an amazing job with the show. I heard the reports of OnlyFans, and I heard that he was very difficult to work with. But I think there's so much. I think there's more to this
There has to be.
that we're not getting at.
But at the same
I would
time, it's
love to
like,
know
so
it.
he disappeared off of social media and everything, right? But then like once the episodes started like coming out, he went back to social media, and he's watching along with everybody, and he's like commenting things and like telling people like, "Oh, stay tuned for this next episode. You're not gonna believe what happens here." Like he's active and like promoting the show and everything, which I get. It's his project, but it's just like, just whatever happened, figure it out, bring bro back. Like,
Pull a James Gunn, bring him back. Like,
yeah, I mean, whatever happened. But also like what I've noticed is he's referenced a lot of stuff, and I mean maybe we'll touch on it when we get to like episode 5 and stuff like that. But like a lot of the stuff like that like some people would consider like as woke stuff, because of like how they're addressing things. Like I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw well, I get you know what? We'll get into the second episode and then I'll talk about what else. So
let
let's
me
jump into the
let me
second.
briefly back you up here, okay? Because that's what best pals do. Back each other up. Okay, to any listener or anybody at all that is calling X-Men woke or X-Men's getting into woke culture, I greatly feel sad for you because you obviously have not been reading the X-Men or watching X-Men for very long. like 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 I don't like the term woke culture. I never liked it. I think it's
Yeah.
just acknowledging what's really going on, which I guess would make you woke up, whatever. But
I guess that's the meaning of
controversy
it,
there.
right?
Um,
Okay.
but or whatever. But that's the whole point of the X-Men is this is a group of people that by choices not of their own, by the way they look, by the way by just having powers, just
They
being
deal with
themselves.
prejudice. Yeah. They
Um,
deal with prejudice and intolerance, and
prejudice, intolerance, hate, and
these
all
are
those
allegories for real life,
real
though.
life.
Like, exactly. Like, as a black man,
Yeah.
those are things I dealt with growing up. Still, at times, not so much, but at times, if I was, in the closet or something, this is a show that would resonate because think like they touched on it in X2. It's like, have you tried not being a mutant? You
Okay.
know,
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that. So that scene in X2, one of the best scenes, that was written by Ian McKellen. And uh,
okay,
Ian McKellen, if no one knows,
sir,
Ian
Ian
McKellen's
McKellen,
Magneto, Gandalf. Ian McKellen is gay, and
sir, Ian McKellen. Yeah,
Sir Ian McKellen.
so-
My apologies, Ian. Or
sorry.
Sir Ian, my apologies. But Sir Ian wrote that to mirror a coming out of the closet and revealing that
See, I
you
did
were
not know that.
homosexual. I found that in my notes of things or in my research this week, and I was like, yeah, okay, that's wonderful. But the whole point of X-Men is that people that are being persecuted and hated just for being who they are still doing the right thing in spite of that.
Yeah,
And to me, there's no greater hero. You know, you know,
and that's why people like Superman. I was just having this conversation with a buddy of mine,
yeah.
where it's like, Superman's such a Boy Scout and all that, but his real power is not all of his powers. It's the fact that in the face of adversary, and he always chooses to do what's right. And that's yeah. So
Shout out to Krypton Report, boys. Superman guys.
right,
Um,
right.
yeah, absolutely, and not to mention Superman always has to hold back everything that he is. He has
And just like Scott says in episode 5, yeah, right, But let's move on to the next episode. I think people get it. If you if
people get
you
it.
if you think X-Men is woke, you're wrong. So let's
You're
go.
wrong. Moving on. Magneto's added to the opening credits. I thought that was really cool because he's added to the roster. This is the first time you need to notice these changes. He's added to the roster. He's on there. Magneto saves kids on the Ferris wheel and the opening stuff, trying to show that he's kind of being a hero, following the stuff. He's wearing his famous evening gown costume. with the long gloves.
Yeah, like a dominatrix.
Like a dog,
He's got the
just
long blonde hair or long white hair,
oh my
long
gosh,
gloves, a
my
cape,
gosh. Like,
giant M across his chest.
and I
We didn't know it was Magneto. We needed the
oh my gosh. Well, that's like it's also it's like a double meaning in that costume because it's Magneto, but also the M of being a mutant. So it's kind of like a double meaning there.
Okay,
Um,
okay, okay. I see you.
but I assume it's supposed to be Magneto. But the gloves, if he didn't have the gloves, I think we could roll with it. But
Yeah, because then it's just like a sleeveless tank top, like Wolverine or somebody, like. But the gloves, they're not like Wolverine or like any of the other X-Men people gloves where they come up to like like right here,
yes,
like on your forearm. These bitches come up to almost his elbow, like
oh
past
my
his
god,
elbows. Like they're no, just no.
it just yeah, it just doesn't work. This episode is based mostly on the trial Magneto story and Canny X Men, and also written by I think Claremont did it too. Claremont wrote for like pretty much everything, but in this episode have that Magneto also in one of his first acts as a leader, he saves the Morlocks, and then he takes the Morlocks from the sewers and he brings them to Genosha, and he makes a comment and says, "You would, why didn't Xavier, with all his money and resources, and you X Men, take these dudes out of the sewer and give them some dignity and put them with, Genosha?" And that's something that I thought about forever. like, why wouldn't you do that?
Or even put him up in the mansion. Like,
Right. Something like,
but that's
um,
that Batman problem too. Is like, like you got all this money and you choose to just go around punching people. You know what I mean? You
not
could be
only,
doing a lot
not
more.
only, yes, but Batman's fists have amazing uh facial
Facial
recognition
recognition.
software.
I know my fist touched that face before.
Oh, there it is. Batman, the best. Um, but what are your thoughts on the Morlocks? Like, what what do you think about Morlocks? Like, just as an X Men group stuff.
Aren't they? Weren't they in the story, The Time Machine?
Yes, that's
Wasn't
exactly why they're named the
okay.
Morlocks. Yep,
Okay, yeah.
yep.
Um, I
Because
mean,
the,
they're
the
cool.
Morlocks lived
They're
undergrounds and they were like mutants. That's
yeah,
the name. Yep.
kind of like in what Demolition Man too. I don't know if they were. You know,
Yeah.
you
Got
remember Demolition Man with with Dennis Leary people?
yes.
I saw a post about the three shells, and I just remembered it. I was like, oh man. So Demolition Man's a great movie. Anyway,
Taco Bell, brother. Taco Bell.
the Morlocks, they're cool characters. Like it, Leech is a Leech is a big character.
Yep.
Callisto, Storm is the leader of them. Or no, she gave it in season 5. She returned,
She takes over them for a while. Yeah.
but she returned power to Callisto, right? In season 5, I think, or season 4. Like it was before this series, right? Or is it in this series that she returns power? I think it was the Christmas episode, so I want to say it was.
I I watched the whole show
Yeah.
like when like in 2019, but I didn't watch it all recently.
Oh no, I rewatched it, but it was the Christmas episode because Jubilee was down there with them, and then basically Leech was dying. So then by the end, when Wolverine helps save Leech by giving him like a blood transfer fusion, Storm gave up power to and was like lead the Morlocks down here. So yes, I like the Morlocks. They're cool. I mean,
Yeah.
they're that like cool side group that like every once in a while you need to not see an X-Men character. They're cool to see. You know what I mean? Like oh, we have mutants. Like that one dude, he's like he looks like a werewolf or something. Like he's all hairy. And they in the old in the 92 X-Men, he was always getting messed with. Like people was always coming to like beat him up and stuff. And he's like, I just look like this. I don't have any powers.
I know what you mean. Yes.
But,
Um,
yeah,
I think the Morlocks are important because you need to have mutants that don't look like other people, that have I always think of the Morlocks as like people with just physical disabilities and just how they're dealing with that, and like they didn't ask for that. you know and it's important that they get that representation as well. And
yeah,
I that's why I think the Morlocks are important. And I'm really glad that Magneto is like taking those steps to like right wrongs. So just kind of this episode is a very good episode, but just speeding through it here, I really like Storm and Jean's sisterhood. I thought that was really important. It just shows how great you can write female characters and have them have substance instead of just really like forcing things. Women need good characters, little girls need good characters. you know it doesn't have to be a sausage fest all the time. We can have good female characters, and this just proves it. Should Jean feel bad that she wants her baby to be normal? I put that little
no,
note
I
there.
mean that's I mean, what is normal? You know what I mean? If we're in the X-Men thing, obviously we're like, oh, I don't want my kid to have abilities, and so that they'll be accepted. But what if you know her kid came out no powers, but he was gay? That's not. I don't I don't want to say nothing to get me canceled here, but you know that's
You're
that
not.
may not be normal to some. How about that? Or what if your kid came out with a disability? You know what I mean? That's like, well, now that's not normal to other people. So I mean, it's like, what's normal? But for any mother, you always want your baby to come out healthy,
Absolutely.
and
And you want the best from. Yeah.
exactly. So I don't think it's wrong for her to want that.
Nah, no, not at all. I I've I just want to admit, full disclosure, if Rogue was a real woman and she wanted to be with me, I'd leave my wife for her. Okay. Anyway, so Magneto and Rogue have a secret that they're kind of hidden out early in this episode, and we'll get to that in a second. The government decides to come for Magneto because of his terrorist acts. We get a trial of Magneto, and we get really good dialogue from Magneto to the UN for this trial. That costume that he wears is from the cover of that story, The Trial of Magneto, where basically, he's ghost for his crimes. The trial ends up getting attacked by the Friends of Humanity and this new villain character called the Executioner, which was a whole story on its own, but they decided to just speed it up, and it kind of works. It works. It works. It got the point across. I really liked that Wolverine is the one that takes Jean to the hospital to give birth, because Wolverine
Yeah,
absolutely
he
loves
goes,
Jean.
he goes, "Oh no, he's coming!" And then Wolverine goes, "Huh? Where's who? Apocalypse?" And she's like, "No, you idiot, the baby."
I love it. I loved it. It shows how Wolverine just loves the X-Men, just loves these people, shows his love for Jean, but Wolverine, the humanity of Wolverine is best showed when he's there to support everybody, when he's there to have everybody's back. And I also think that X-Men is at its best when the focus is not on Wolverine and Wolverine's there to support him. I love Wolverine. Don't get me wrong. I think Wolverine's one of the greatest characters, but I think that much like in DC, how the Joker is overused, I think Wolverine is really pushed down our throats a lot. Um,
Yeah, but you know, Deadpool and Wolverine needs to happen. So
no, sure, Zach does. Like if you're gonna usher in the X Men into the MCU world, and these generations that really don't know the X Men, you're gonna use Wolverine. That's the way it needs to be. So I love how Morph. Oh, we already talked about that. Never mind. I love Rogue. Okay, so Doctor doesn't want to deliver the baby because he is a piece of junk. So Rogue absorbing the doctor's knowledge of how to deliver babies, I thought that was absolutely badass. I really love that.
Pretty smart. Yeah. It's
So
lucky that she was there.
yeah, I know, right? Product placement or no product placement, but just convenience.
Barely an inconvenience.
Well, how are they going to deliver this baby? Oh, it's going to be super easy. Barely an
Shouldn't be a
inconvenience.
problem.
Shout out,
Shouldn't be a
shout,
problem. Right?
shout out to Ryan George. We love you, man. Yeah. So Magneto is going to get shot by the executioner, and Storm sacrifices herself. And what happens there, Fitch?
What about when he okay, like obviously so Executioner busts in and it's like storming the Capitol January 6th. Uh,
Dude.
um
And I'm
but
canceled
like
now.
but then like Magneto like creates this thing like he creates this giant like I don't it looks like a cross, right? Like these giant crosses or something, and basically like electrifies them and like creates like this barrier, but yet Executioner shoots this weapon that we find out is designed for depleting mutant powers, basically. Like a dampener or eliminating mutant powers. So he shoots it at Magneto. Our girl, the Omega level mutant Storm, jumps in front of Magneto, gets hit, falls to the ground. Magneto tries like to check on her. She goes, what does she say? I can't feel the wind. Right?
That's exactly
Something
how
like
she says it. I
that.
can't feel the wind.
Oh no,
The
it was like
the moisture.
it was more sad than how I said it. It was just like it was like, damn, what? Like
Yeah, it was
they
so
took her
sad.
powers, and then Magneto got pissed off, and he grabs Executioner, puts him up onto this like giant penny seal that's in like a courtroom, turns it upside down, raises him up, takes the whole UN panel or
The whole
whatever.
world in his hands.
He's got the whole world. Takes him up to space, and the speech he gives up there, he's like, he basically like puts his foot on Executioner's head, and he's like, "I could squash you, but I won't." And then basically, like as he's up in like the stratosphere, like he's above the atmosphere, but like where it's hard for them to breathe, you know. And he's like, I promised an old friend Charles that I would not do this or whatever, and then basically says an awesome line. He's like, "Don't let me let you down," or some. Is that how
No,
he says it?
that's
Or
like what he says. Yeah, yeah.
it just the way he delivers
He's
the
like
line.
you're putting. I'm asking you to put your faith in me. That I can change them different. And then he says something like, "And don't make me let you down."
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Just, the double entendre, you know what I mean? Like he's up in space and it's like if I let you down, you won't fall to death. Or, it's like, oh, it's just Magneto is gangsta in this show. But
Magneto's one of my
one of the
favorite
things
characters of all time.
one of the things I kind of wanted to touch was what I was saying, and I think as the episodes were airing, you would every day like check on me, be like, "Hey, what'd you think of this episode?" And I think this is where I think I might have mentioned at one point to you. It's like it sounded a bit preachy, the way like Magneto was delivering the message, but the message that he was delivering was like so on the nose. You know what I mean? Like for like what's going on in our modern times, even though this is supposed to be the 97, it's just like the allegories and the it's just so accurate. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't know if I mean obviously I like that's taking place in our X-Men show because it needs to be addressed and that's the kind of stuff they're dealing with. But at the same time it's like we're watching cartoons cuz we want to escape reality, right?
Yep.
And it feels like like watching them deal with similar issues and things like that, it's like it's cool to see, and I'm glad they are touching on it because sometimes this is how you teach children who are watching animated things like that, who may not, you know, if it comes on the news or something, they're not paying attention to it. But like, you know, if you're watching a cartoon character say that, it could be something where like a kid thinks about, and they're like, if they're actually listening to the words and be like, hey, like I feel that, or I understand that, you know what I mean? So I don't know. That was my only thing, like complaint, but the episode was so good and
So
Magneto
good.
is so good. So yeah.
Oh, it's yeah, like even my notes. I even put what an episode. Like yeah, so it's so epic. So we we also see that Magneto and Rogue seem to have a relationship. It seems that well, not seems. So Magneto is able to create a electromagnetic field over his body and protect him from Rogue, and Rogue can touch him. We'll get more of this story later, but it Rogue is kind of like being tempted by Magneto because she's so desperate for connection, and she leaves a room with Magneto. She leaves Magneto's room, and we see Gambit outside, and my heart breaks because I love Gambit, and
Yep.
um, I think my wife was in the room at the time, and I was just like yelling at the TV, like a girl watching dang soap opera, and I was just like, he loves her so much, like
I remember when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, poor Gambit." Like he drops the Queen of Hearts. Ugh.
uh
Yeah.
because but I'm glad you said that. So if people don't know much about Gambit, the last card that he uses when he uses his cards for explosive weapons, the last card that he ever throws in that deck is the Queen of Hearts. So the Queen of Hearts is his lucky card.
Damn.
It is like his card, and his Queen of Hearts has always been Rogue. His love for Rogue, immeasurable. It's so huge. So heartbreaks. So speaking of heartbreaks, Storm doesn't have powers anymore, and
No.
she decides to leave the team. Like this is a big episode. Storm leaves the team, and she says a letter that Jean, you always be my sister, and I'm leaving. And and
She's
after Storm,
leaving on a midnight train to Georgia.
did not trade Georgia. Um, and the cliffhanger at the end of this episode is there is a knock on the door. Morph answers the door, and who's there? Finch.
Jean Grey. Sorry, I got confused for a second.
What?
Yeah.
But how could Jean Grey be at the door if Jean Grey just had a baby?
That's because leading into we end the episode on cliffhanger. Dun dun dun.
Da-da-da. Going into episode 3 here. Episode 3 is entitled Fire Made Flesh. The first thing I want to say here, Finch, do you feel that this is where the show just becomes so freaking rushed that nothing's getting room to breathe now?
Yeah, definitely. So
Thank you.
no, it is. I mean, even the last episode was a bit rushed, you know? I mean, the trial of Magneto, the birth of Cable, the birth, all of a sudden we got two genes. It's Storm's loss of
Storm
power
leaves. Yep.
and leaves. Yeah,
It's
it's
boom,
a
boom,
lot's
boom for that last
happening,
episode. Yeah.
but it's like they're doing really good stuff with it. So it's good. This episode, yeah, we get to this episode and a storyline from the comics that
Is much
was a big
longer.
build up and stuff, yeah, is
It was
literally
entitled
like
Inferno.
resolved.
Yeah. In the comics, I think it
Yeah,
was titled Inferno. Yeah. Once again, a Claremont story. yeah, I feel right off the bat, this story should have been at least 2 episodes. Honestly, they could have they before intro stop it. I don't know what you're doing. You're doing something with your eye.
All right, there's
Stop.
something in my eye. So
you're whatever you do with your eye was reminding me of that taxi cab driver in Home Alone 2. where Kevin gets in the taxi, he's like, "Oh, I'll be safe here from the park," and then the guy turns around, he's got that crazy eye, like looking around, he's like, "It ain't much better in here, kid."
yeah.
uh,
No, sorry, there's something in my eye. Continue.
yeah, you're okay. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, okay. So I just feel like it was really rushed, and I feel like they should have at least made this 2 episodes, but I kind of feel like the whole story here really needed to breathe because like like Cyclops just lost. Like the first episode, it's clear that they're making this very Cyclops central. They're growing Cyclops character as a leader, as a as as just as a leader, and we get the birth of their child kind of like right away, and then immediately after that child's born, we throw this wrench in there that like the woman that he married and the woman he had a child with is not the woman he thought it was. It's a clone. It's a shell of the woman that he loves. Like, how does a man deal with that? How does how does he process that the woman that he thought that he was building a life with is not who he thought it was? Like, that's a lot to deal with. But we
Yeah.
just go boom, boom, boom. Like we don't process it. And we get more trauma for Cyclops in the second. It's
Yeah.
just crazy. When do you think Jean was switched?
I want to say, man, obviously it was one time when Sinister grabbed her, but that could have been. I feel like it's that one time when he grabbed her and Scott, and Morph told him. I think it was when he took him to the Savage Land, and then
That's what I think too.
that's because that feels like the best time because he also had the professor there, but he didn't have his abilities, so he couldn't do anything. She wouldn't have had any abilities to contact anybody or anything.
Yep.
I think that's probably
And
the
that's
best time.
pre that's like season 2, ain't it? That's like pre Phoenix.
I think it's pre Phoenix,
Yeah.
but
That would make
I
Madeline
don't.
be the Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's what I think. Either that or when he kidnapped her for Apocalypse. I think it's one of these two times. It was when either the time he took her to Savage Land or the time he kidnapped her for Apocalypse. And before he gave her to Apocalypse, he probably pulled some of her DNA or something. That's but that would have been after the Phoenix. So it's like it's either
Mhm.
before or after the Phoenix, which I don't. But then again, I know like other people would be like, well, maybe he found her at the bottom of the ocean or the lake or the river after she came back from being the Phoenix, so she still had residual Phoenix powers and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Well, I think in the comics, like the Phoenix like build a cocoon around Jean in the water, and then put her in hibernation for a while, and then Cyclops like Cyclops moves to Alaska because he's like he'd try and get over Jean, and so so this woman's name is eventually becomes Malin Pryor, and we don't get any explanation in the show why she calls herself Malin Pryor, but the original plan. So first of all, this is who Mr. Sinister is. So if people don't know who Mr. Sinister is, so extremely long story short, is Mr. Sinister is a guy named Nathaniel Essex. Nathaniel Essex was basically this scientist in the mid 1800s who was fascinated with Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest. and he he was a scientist, and he was married to a woman with the last name Gray. He
Mhm.
married into the Gray family, and so keep that in mind, the Gray family. And he he gets obsessed with this idea of like making himself better and being able to fight disease and fight cures. And he discovers mutants. He he basically has makes himself immortal by experimenting on mutants and stealing their abilities. He makes himself immortal, gives himself white skin, and he he basically lives a mortal life stealing things from other mutants to create like this perfect race. And he eventually is confronted by Cyclops and Jean Grey, and he kind of orchestrates things to basically make them have an offspring. She creates the Madeline Pryor clone, and Madeline Pryor falls in love with Cyclops, and they create Nathaniel Summers. So he's 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 he's
AKA Cable.
he's one of the worst of the worst. Now Nathaniel was originally not to be Cable. Originally, he was just supposed to be a baby, which I'll break that down in a second. The original plan for Madeline, written by Claremont, the original Madeline storyline was that at the simplest level, this is a quote from Claremont, she was that one in a million shot that just happened to look like Jean Grey. So Scott goes off to Alaska and he meets this random chick who just looks like Jean Grey. And Jean Grey is the first Phoenix. So according to Claremont, Jean Grey was the Phoenix. So, and the Phoenix made a cocoon, put her in the ocean, Jean's gone. So the relationship was summed up at the moment when Scott says, "Are you Jean?" and Madeline punches him. And that was in Uncanny X-Men 174. Because her whole desire was to be deeply loved for herself and not be loved by the avocation of her boyfriend's dead romantic lover and sweetheart. So it's like a classical theme. So yeah, so the original plot line was supposed to be that Scott marries Madeline. They have their child. They go off to Alaska. He goes to work for his grandparents, and he retires from the X-Men, and he becomes a reserve member. He's available for emergencies. He comes back on special occasions for special fights. But Cyclops now has a life. He's grown up. He's grown out of the monastery. He's in the real world now. He has a child. He has maybe more than one child. It's a metaphor for us all. We all grow up. We all move on. So Scott was going to move on. Jean was dead, and Scott's getting on with his life. And it was closest to the happy ending that I could give Cyclops, and I wanted him to live happily ever after. It was a great impression that maybe if you come back in 10 years, other X-Men would have grown up and gone out. Like, would Kitty Pryde with the team forever? Would Nightcrawler, would any of them actually stay with the team? Because then we could involve the team, we could go in new directions, we can bring in new characters, and there would be this sense of renewal and growth and change, like in real life. But unfortunately, the editors they wanted Jean to come back and to create a team called X Factor. And X Factor is originally started as the the original X-Men team, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Angel, and Beast created X Factor. And they wanted to have a whole new X-Men team. So they resurrected Jean for that team and basically ruined the Cyclops character forever because Scott dumps his wife and he dumps his wife and kid, Madeline and Nathan, and he goes back to Jean. And it pretty much destroyed Scott's character as a hero and as a decent human being. And it creates this whole situation. Like, so I would have really liked this episode to get that room to breathe because we just build up Cyclops' character so well.
Yeah.
And now like now we have the Madeline Pryor thing. So to kind of speed this up a little bit,
But I mean, it does turn into some better conflict later too, though. So
yes, it sure does. So we find out that Sinister's talking to Madeline through a baby monitor.
That
Um,
was creepy.
that was
Yes.
creepy. Like this episode was good, but I feel it needed to be a two-parter. It needed to breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but he controls Madeline telepathically and remotely through like the baby monitor. He activates his mind control part of her, and she decides to become the Goblin Queen. And
She like transforms the whole mansion and gives everybody like their worst fear or whatever, right? And
yes,
this is where my boy Bishop gets to shine.
okay, break it down for me. What everybody's fears are and what happens. Break it down
Oh
for me, brother.
dang. Dang.
If you can remember.
Okay. So obviously Storm, no, she's gone. Okay. Wolverine and Morph, they have something going on, which this goes with that non-binary thing. Like Wolverine's in the shower, and Morph's like, "Hey, Wolverine, you need some help or somebody to wash your back or something?" He comes up, and then like it turns into Sinister, like ooh, or and Morph is terrified because in the original comic or the original series, Sinister messed with his mind and all that stuff. So that's his fear. Scott's fear, I believe, was something with the baby, right? Like either losing the baby or
Pretty much losing his family. Oh
yeah.
no, Xavier. Xavier telling him that he was a failure.
Oh yeah, demerits, my boy.
Mhm.
Right? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Bishop, I think, was his sister in the future, telling him like, "Why did you leave me? Why did you leave me?" Wolverine, I can't remember what Wolverine's was. Feel like it had something to do with Jean.
I don't remember. I don't remember what
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't remember everybody. I just
it's
remember
okay.
when they finally got together to figure it all out, there was a sick ass action scene where like
What happens, buddy? They're like in hell. He like takes him to hell.
yeah, like the floor of the
Or
mansion like
she does. Yeah.
turns into like like a pit and they're all down there and basically Bishop's like, "Light me up, is it Cyclops, right?" He's like, "Light me up." And Cyclops just beams
No, it
him.
was Snoop Dogg. See, Snoop Dogg was lighting joints in the corner there. So he had an extra match or whatever.
Light me up, baby. For shizzle. So Cyclops just removes beams him and Bishop just like takes it all in and just goes and just like lays everything out.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's beautiful.
So
It's beautiful.
awesome.
Gave my boy some time to shine, man. So
Speaking of Bishop, we find out that Beast is working on fixing his time device. That's very important.
yeah,
So Bishop's is there because he's basically stuck.
yeah.
So,
And this would have
so-
been after I guess after the events where Apocalypse kidnapped everybody, all the
mhm,
psychics,
yeah,
and Bishop was there. And I guess when he on his way trying to get back home, he got stopped in this time. So
which I don't blame him because we're very happy to have him part of the group.
yeah,
So yeah, so they Morph knows where to find Sinister. They go after Sinister, try to take him down, and Sinister has baby Nathan, and he's trying to dip him in this chemical, and basically it's homage or whatever. It is a mirror of the story of Achilles because Achilles in Greek mythology was was dipped in like basically he was dipped in a
like holy water, right?
like a holy water thing to give him invincibility so that he wouldn't die. And they were grabbing him by the ankle and dipping him in this, and the only part that didn't get part of the dip was
That's
his
where they're
ankle,
holding. Yeah,
hence the Achilles heel.
yeah.
But in this, Mr. Sinister has him dipped in this stuff to basically make him invincible, just like Sinister. And when they all go to rescue him, oh, by the way, Jean helps Madeline kind of like come to realization that what's important is that you have a son and you gotta get your crap together. So even though you're not a real person, your son's real. So so we're gonna go with that. And the whole story is rushed, and Goblin Queen's done. She's gone. so so the
She says,
whole
"My name's Madeline Pryor. I'll see you."
see ya. Why I chose that name, who knows? but she's like, I'm the Goblin Queen. Then she's like, I'm Madeline Pryor. It's very rushed. So Nathan. So because they save him and get him out of the chemical, it actually dooms him forever.
Yes.
So they find out that
Technovirus.
he has the technovirus, which basically will, it'll kill him. So they decide they ask Beast to cure it. Beast can't cure it, and he says that the technology to cure it won't be around for hundreds of years. So Bishop takes baby Nathaniel, baby Nathan, or Nathaniel, whatever, into the future to be raised by whoever and be cured. And that
Now,
go ahead.
a question I've wondered before this episode too, but so they named the baby after Mr. Sinister.
Exactly.
I'm like, they hate him, but
they it's intentional because Madeline was created by
so he supplanted that in her mind, incepted
exactly
it.
exactly
Okay, okay. So
and that's
Nathaniel
why
Charles Summers.
yes, because Cyclops thinks of his daddy, which is Charles. Like, so that was supposed to, in the writing of it, was supposed to be a little Easter egg of what was really going on, because when the baby was born, you didn't know that she was a clone yet. So that was like the little Easter egg there. So originally Nathan was not to be Cable, and basically the editors of Marvel, they went to a guy named Rob Liefeld, or
Liefeld.
Liefeld, my bad.
That's
And
the creator of Deadpool.
yes, the creator of Deadpool, Rob Liefeld, and said, "Hey, we need a new leader for the X-Men, and we basically want him to be like a dark Arnold Schwarzenegger type." And they created Cable, and then they tied these two stories together to kind of make it work.
I remember having the Cable action figure, and he had this like, yeah, it was cool. So-
Totally dope. So yes, so did this ruin Cyclops? Did this ruin the work that they just did in 2 episodes for Cyclops, with him not knowing whether he can be with Jean, if still has a son? There's a lot of confusion here. Did it
Are
ruin?
you asking me? Did it
Yeah,
ruin
yeah.
him?
Oh, did it ruin him?
I don't think so. I mean, because I know what's coming up. No,
Sure,
but
that's fair.
if when you're watching this, you're just like, damn, you feel bad for Scott. Like, damn, you know. And then my initial thought was like, well, what do they do now? There's 2
Yeah,
Jeans. Well, one's Jean, and what do they do now with 2 of them? So
honest to God, I would have liked Cyclops to stay with Madeline, and I would have liked to see
Volvi.
Wolverine get Jean. That's what I would like. It would have been very interesting. But here we are. Okay, so so Cyclops had a kid, lost it into the future,
He
had a
does
wife,
say
lost her,
he does say
had a
something in the
dad,
episode.
lost her.
He goes, "You don't know what it's like to be abandoned or something, right?" And then he's like, "I will not abandon my son." And then they're like,
No, he
"We're gonna
said,
send
"You
him to
all
the
know what it's like
future."
to be abandoned, and I'm not going to abandon my son."
He's like, and then they're like, "Well, we're gonna send him to the future." And he's like, "Well, I can't be around for this." And he he dips out.
Exactly.
So it's
all
like,
right,
yeah,
all right. I'm gonna head out.
the vanishing with that meme.
exactly.
Just
Exactly. Peace.
disappears. Yeah.
Um. Okay. So
Episode 4,
episode
Motendo.
4 is basically filler trash. After like a big emotional couple episodes, it's just filler trash. Well, it's not really trash. It's just filler. It's I don't know. It's weird. So you get like
It's a split episode.
yeah. It's just I don't know. It's just like a little bit of fan service to all the X-Men video games. Jubilee and Sunspot get sucked into Mojo World. Mojo's lost weight. Um, I love the character Mojo, but yeah, this it just was just very
It was just a nice reference to the original episodes that had Mojo in them,
yeah.
and yeah, like you said, a callback to the Capcom versus Marvel, and what's the X-Men game where they had all their pictures on the wall? I mean, the way the episode like played out, it looked awesome. Like visually, it was in what, like 16, 8-bit graphics. It was cool. And yeah, but it was like you said, it was filler. But then we move on to the second part, which was still filler, but it kind of moved the story a little bit.
Well, I'm gonna just let's just let's just briefly talk about
Yeah, quick.
the life death, part one and then part two. Because even though part two takes place after an episode 6, it's just all part of the same story. So really quick,
Oh,
super
how about
super.
this? How about this? You just break it down the Storm and Forge side of it, because
That's all I'm saying. Yeah,
the life death still goes on, but it has another part. But
life death.
this part two does have a
Oh
subtext.
yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it
So
does.
let's just break down Life Death Part
Just,
1 and
just
2, Storm and Forge.
yeah, just the
Go.
story part. So really quick, Storm doesn't have powers. She meets Forge. Forge says, "I can help you get your powers." And he kind of wants to redeem himself because Storm was the one that made the technology that took away her powers.
Forge was the one. Yes.
Yeah, Forge was. And then we find out that they start a romance, which is extremely rushed. And we find out that Forge in the past summoned a demon when he was in like Vietnam or something. And this demon was called the Adversary. And Adversary is attacking them and going after
Giant
Storm.
owl.
It's a giant owl. And then the Adversary bites Forge, and Forge is dying. And
But
Storm
okay, I know we're trying to skip through, but so Forge reveals that he was in the military, that he created the weapons, but he was working with somebody who created like the collars and the gun that shot her, and some little Easter eggs and stuff that come later. But go. Sorry.
touche. Good point. So Storm, in order to save Forge, she goes and finds this like cactus aloe thing in some cave. She hates cave, claustrophobia. She overcomes her fear. She defeats the Adversary. She gets the thing. She cures Forge, and when she gets her powers, she like uses them through a mountain, and we get this very badass montage where she flies through the air and she creates a new costume for herself, and the new costume is actually her original costume from when she debuted in Giant Says X-Men 1. The black costume, the crown, with the wings, looks totally badass.
It looks awesome.
That part takes place after episode 5. So keep that in mind. So technically, if you're watching this show, honest to God, I would probably do episode 5 right after episode 3, and then I would probably go back to and do 4 and then 6. That's what I would do. Just that order needs changed.
No,
Um,
that works actually really well now that I think about it.
yeah, that's what I would do.
Especially because episode 5 is so
Episode 5 is the most important episode of X-Men.
need time to process that one.
Yes, it's so big. So whew, let's
So
get it.
previously on X-Men.
Let's get to number 5 because it's huge. So
It's the money shot.
it's yeah. There's so much in this episode. You guys, this is the episode. Like this is the X-Men episode. Yeah.
What's
So
the type?
watching this week by week and like seeing episode 4, you're like, yeah. But when this episode comes, the name of the title is Remember It. And you will definitely remember it. You'll never forget it when you watch this episode.
You're gonna remember it.
You're going to remember it, boy. Whew. Okay. So I really want you listeners to watch this episode, so I'm not going to give you every detail, but I'm going to tell you the spoilers. And Finch and I think I messaged Finch right after I watched it, and I think we cried together. And
Well, okay, I remember I'm West Coast time, you're East Coast, so
yes, sir.
12 o'clock midnight comes. It
Oh, I
was
messaged
literally
you,
3
didn't
minutes.
I?
No, I messaged you. It was 3 minutes after midnight. I'm, like, in my kitchen doing dishes because I don't go to sleep.
Sure.
So 12 o'clock my time is what? 3 your time, 4
3
o'clock
a.m.
your
my
time?
time, so I wouldn't
3
have
AM.
watched it yet.
So you wouldn't have watched it. I'm
Mm.
in the kitchen washing dishes, watching this, and, like, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh." And then the ending, I'm like, "They did not just do that."
Yeah,
And then I
that's right.
immediately,
Looking at
as
my
soon as it
messages.
ends as soon as it ends, I message you, I'm like, "Bruh, bruh."
Bruh, bruh.
That's, like, all I could say. I was like, "Oh my gosh."
It,
And then at 7 in the morning when I wake up, I got all these messages from you like, "Bro, bro." So,
because
yeah, it's that good.
because all these so I work IT and all these tickets don't come in. Like I get all this, like I start at 8 a.m., which is 5 a.m. your time, and I don't get all these tickets in so usually about 9 or 10, like an hour or two into it, so I can kind of sneak in a little episode. And it was totally bro. So getting into it. So unable to so basically we kind of start with Jean, and she's unable to tell what memories belong to her and which memories belong to Madeline. And she's kind of like channeling these memories, trying to like figure it out in her head. And Wolverine comes in and she kisses Wolverine. So important thing here. The real Jean kissed Wolverine. Very important. He he rejects her advances because Wolverine is still a class act. No matter how much he loves Jean, he still respects Cyclops. I know that they have fights all the time, him and Cyclops, but he does respect Cyclops. And he's not going to be that guy. So he knows that she's vulnerable. He's not
He's
going
a
to take
better
advantage
man
of
than me. He's a better man than me.
it.
I would
Yeah, probably me too. But yeah, he tells her to talk to Cyclops, and Jean does that, and she
hold on,
discovers,
you're forgetting that they're getting interviewed
yeah,
at the mansion, remember?
yeah,
So
yeah.
they're getting interviewed, and Scott goes off on the interviewer, remember? That part was good too, because he's like the interviewers are like, "Oh, I heard you had a kid with
Oh,
Jean
that
Grey."
does happen before that. Yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
She's like, "I heard you had a kid with Marvel Girl," because she's, and they're like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "No, me and Jean don't have kids," and which is true, because it's not him and Jean's, it's him and Madeline's. But so he says, "Oh, we don't have kids," and she's like, "Well, my records say," and he's like, "That
Nath-
doctor wouldn't deliver
Nathaniel,
my baby,"
yeah, Nathaniel
and
Summers
then
born. Yeah,
yeah, and then she's like, "Scott, I'm trying to, have you talk to the public. Why would you lie?" He's like, "I lie because you." He just goes off on it. He's like, "Because you guys don't earn our respect, and you don't." I don't know. Like he just goes off though hard, and he's just like, and he just gets up and leaves the interview, and it's just like, this
he's
Scott.
basically like
What's going on with Scott?
after everything that we do for you,
Yeah.
like you won't deliver my baby, and then my baby gets taken away because of all of this garbage, like saving you. Like,
Hmm.
yep.
Sorry,
No,
I just had to throw that in because that
no. I'm glad you did. I'm
was
glad
an
you did.
important part in there too. So
And Beast is mostly getting interviewed here too with this reporter, because this reporter will come back later, and she's kind of flirting with Beast here a little bit as they go through the story, and then all this stuff's kind of happening in the background with like, and then the Cyclops flipping out, but
Rogue,
Cyclops,
Magneto. Oh, sorry, you're still on that part. Okay.
yeah, oh yeah, no. But Cyclops is meant to be the character of Cyclops. A lot of people say he's cringe and all that garbage, like he's a definition of cringe. But Cyclops, the definition of Cyclops, he is supposed to be the mixture of Professor X and Magneto. And I think a lot of people forget that. Like he's the constant struggle of the ideals of Professor X and Magneto.
I
Because
never knew that.
yes, that's that
I
like
like seeing that though. I
like
can see that.
that's what he's supposed to be, and you can kind of see that. Yeah, as the character of Cyclops grows in the future, you can see that. So he's just like he's tired. Like the boy has suffered so much trauma right now. Like he doesn't have any time for any BS right now. So yeah. So he runs off and Jean basically finds out that Cyclops has been communicating with Madeline telepathically, kind of having. Oh, I mean, he's married to her, so it's not really an affair, but like to, to
I
Jean,
guess he's married to Jean though. Like
no, he's married to
if
Madeline,
you look
bro.
no, if you look at their marriage certificate,
Yeah, that's right.
it would say Jean Grey and Scott Summers. It wouldn't say Madeline.
Touche. But
But yes, who's wearing the ring? It would be Madeline.
yeah, yeah. So Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit travel to Genosha because Genosha is being put into the United Nations.
Yeah, they're being brought into the UN. Yeah.
Yes. And we get into Genosha and we see Nightcrawler. And Nightcrawler is very excited to see Rogue and Gambit and he knows how much they love each other or how much like Rogue or how much Gambit loves Rogue. And this Genosha has a council. And in the council, who's on the council? Sebastian Shaw from Hellfire Club,
Emma Frost.
Emma Frost, Hellfire Club,
The chick from the island that Charles used to
Moira.
date, Moira,
Yeah,
her
Moira.
boy Banshee, the UN chick with the glasses,
The
right?
UN chick with glasses. Madeline is part of the council.
Madeline.
I think
I
it's
think there was a couple other Hellfire people, right?
possibly, but I
And then
think that
they're trying to basically make Magneto their ambassador.
they're white king, if you will.
Why
Yes.
gotta be white? I'm just kidding.
Well, and yeah, so Magneto is being asked to leave the country. He says, "I'll do it on one condition: if Rogue leads it with me." And Rogue explains to Gambit that she had a secret relationship with Magneto in the past when she was younger. So this would be, let's assume like Rogue's probably at this time, I don't know, she's probably what, maybe like mid to late 20s. So Rogue at the time, and Magneto's like 60. So Rogue at the time was probably, maybe 18, 19, who knows. And
I think the Rogue that we're seeing is probably in her 30s. I'm thinking this would have been like early 20s. She was of legal age. We'll just say that. How about that?
yes, but Magneto is still old enough to be
She
your
still
dad.
would have been like 50 something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still creepy. But basically, her mom, who raised her and trained her, which is Mystique, basically fed her, sexually trafficked her to probably to Magneto, and said like Magneto will help you with your abilities. He'll teach you how to how to control your abilities. And she found out that she could touch Magneto without hurting him, which she cannot do with Gambit. Every time she'll touch Gambit, she would take away his powers, his memories, his life force. So she explains it to him, and yeah, Gambit doesn't like that too much.
That's right, mon cher.
You know, and what does he say to her? Does he say to her at this time? He's like, "You can light up the whole world," or she says that to him. You can light up the whole world or like everything around you, but you can't light up me.
Yeah.
She said that to him at that time, right?
And he says some things are more important than touch or something like that.
Yeah,
Something like
some things are deeper than touch. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
something like that. It's such a good episode. Okay, where was I? Okay, so at a gala, so before this gala happens and fireworks shoot in the sky, this is so freaking important. I was watching on my laptop, so I caught it right away, and I took a picture, and I think I sent to you immediately because I don't know if you caught it right away, but in
I did not, because like I said, I was washing dishes, and I glanced away every second or every other couple seconds, so I didn't catch it immediately. And then when somebody said it, I think you were the one that noticed. You were like, "Look in the sky," and I'm like, "Hold up!" And I rewatched that part. I was like, "What? Okay,
because the screen was like right here to my face. So,
yeah."
but oh gosh, dude. So in the sky, everybody, if you didn't notice, is the Watcher.
Uatu,
Oh, who, Owatu,
Uatu the Watcher,
the Watcher.
played by in What
What?
If, played by Jeffrey Wright, Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
voiced by.
So if you've been following the MCU, if you've been following comics, if you see the Watcher, that means that this is a canon event. This is a, this is going to change everything.
A Nexus event,
This is
canon
next
event.
events, canon event, sacred timeline, whatever. Like this is a key event. So some crap's about to go down, and boy does it. So Finch, what happens?
Well, you just want me to get into the action portion?
You can start with like the dance between Rogue and
Dancing? Okay.
Magneto, and like yeah,
So Ace
and
of
then
Base plays, because it's the
my
90s.
wife said that. She's like, "Is that Ace of Base?"
Ace of Base plays, it's the 90s. I
Yep.
forget the title of the song, but I was jamming.
Yeah.
Um, so Rogue and Magneto, or Rogue like flies in and Magneto like joins her and they're like floating and dancing and Gambit's just sitting down there like, damn, you know? And he's like, let me get a drink. And Madeline shows up next to him and she said something to him and then he just like walks away. Or no, Magneto and Rogue kiss up in the air in front of everybody.
Yep.
And that's when Gambit walks away. As Gambit's walking away, Madeline's sitting at the bar, gets this like psychic shot, you know, psychic blast. And she's like, oh, and then she sees like all these visions. And then all of a sudden this guy comes up and it's Cable. Cable's running up. He's like, cut the music, cut the music, get everybody out of here. She walks up to Cable. He stops and looks at her. She looks into his eyes. She goes, Nathan? And he's like, I'm sorry, mom. And then his cube tells him, slide one, get the hell out of here. And he's like, no, or he tells her
Ah,
first he says,
no!
he's coming. That's what he says to her. And then he's like, no, or he says, I'm sorry, mom. And he gets sent back into the future, back to the future. And
Oh, he didn't even take the time to date his mom for a little bit. Come on.
this ain't the 50s, bruh. Uh,
Touche, touche.
so then just as like Cable disappears, we see a bunch of green blasts coming from like deep in the forest. And then it's like everybody basically runs out. Gambit, Magneto, and Rogue all, I don't know, an island full of super powerful mutants. I don't know why. Only 3 of them decided to fight this thing. But
Thank you. Exactly.
but all of a sudden we see this 3-headed giant Godzilla looking. Gambit even says, "Oh, it's a Godzilla Sentinel." Basically, it's a master mold, and this thing just starts wreaking havoc on the island of Genosha, just blasting mutants left and right, destroying people. This is where we get the Bo DeMayo cameo on the roof. He interjected himself in his own cartoon, but he gets blasted, and Nightcrawler is helping, so it's not just the 3. Nightcrawler's helping, but he gets hurt a little bit, and Rogue goes to save him, but she's not wearing her gloves because she was dancing, so she can't touch him to check his pulse. Gambit checks him. Mutants are getting killed left and right. We get Callisto; she gets killed, and like her eyes, like we see her die basically. And this mutant, this Sentinel, is just wrecking shop, and Rogue Magneto starts fighting it, throwing trains at it. The Sentinel like knocks him back. Like he has like a force field. Sentinel knocks him back. He hits into a Professor X statue. killing a
Yep.
bunch of people. Like
Yep.
it kills a bunch of people. Magneto like has like these visions of the Holocaust. He's like, no, I will avenge them or it won't happen again. And just starts fighting the Sentinel. The Sentinel knocks him down, just starts blasting him. He's protecting the Morlocks. So Leech is there. He puts up like a force field and everything. And basically it looks like he's dead. Basically, the Sentinel thing kills Magneto.
But he says a line to Leech.
Oh, in German, yeah, right?
German. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I don't know
everything
what
is. He basically says to him that everything's gonna be afraid. Everything's gonna be all right. Don't be afraid.
yeah,
Like kind of like that.
it's deep
Uh,
though. Yeah,
yeah, it's deep. It's there's more to it than that, but like it's very emotional. And Magneto dies.
perishes.
Yes,
So he
but
perishes.
that's not all.
So then Rogue's, she's like, oh, basically Magneto pushed Rogue and Gambit to the side so that they would be spared, as he's trying to save the Morlocks. Basically, Rogue gets pissed off, breaks free, decides to go right towards the Sentinel. She's flying like top speed. Gambit gets behind her on his motorcycle, charges up the motorcycle,
Do that sound
blasts
again?
it.
How that sound again? There it is. There it is. Yeah.
He charges up the motorcycle, boom, kicks off the motorcycle, knocks Rogue out of the way of the blast of the Sentinel. And then he's like, the cards always be in my favor. And then Gambit gets stuck. Sentinel pulls him up. He
He
goes,
gets completely impaled.
yeah, he's impaled. He's got blood dripping out his mouth. The Sentinel goes, mutant. He says something, and then Gambit goes, the name's Gambit. Remember it. And just supercharges up, destroys the Sentinel, destroying himself at the same time. And then we get one of the most heartbreaking scenes. Rogue holding Gambit. Has no gloves on. Has no gloves on. She's touching him.
I
She
can't
says,
feel. I
I
can't feel.
can't feel you. I'm sorry, I need a moment. Such a good episode, dude. Oh my gosh. Watch this show, people.
Ugh. I I'm still recovering from that. I'm still recovering from the episode. Yeah. Magneto dead, Gambit dead. Yeah, so to speed this up after that emotional thing. So we get we now jump to Professor X in space. And basically we see the war between the Shi'ar and Kree, and we see Lilandra and all them people fighting Ronan the Accuser. So a little
Well,
Easter egg there.
it's her sister, Deathbird,
Deathbird, yeah. That's right.
with Gladiator. They basically take over and they beat up Ronan the Accuser. And then Leandra sends out this like message that says, hey, I'm about to get married to this dude from Terra, Charles Xavier. And then everyone's like, what the hell? So go ahead. Sorry.
And we see Professor Xavier in this armor that's letting him be able to stand. And we don't know how he's been cured. We still don't even know what got him sick or whatever. Basically, Lilandra is such a toxic woman, and he needs to leave her. So the Shi'ar Empire has basically said that if he's going to marry her, then he needs to expunge everything. Oh, I'm sorry. So everybody is refusing to accept Xavier marrying Lilandra or marrying somebody from Earth. So Deathbird invokes the right of Madasha in Shi'ar, whatever, and she challenges Xavier to purge all his memories of Earth and prove his loyalty to the Shi'ar Empire. Xavier refuses to renounce his memories of the X-Men, and that results in a battle between the Shi'ar Imperial Guard and Deathbird supporters until Xavier pulls everyone into the astral plane, and basically he makes a classroom. It's really weird, and educates them on coexistence, which is his whole mission all along. And this lesson is interrupted by a psychic vision to Xavier of Gambit dying. Xavier says, I can't stay up here. I can't do it. I must return to Earth. I must return to my X-Men. So Xavier decides that he's going to leave, and he's going to return to his X-Men. So, and then the other half of this is that Storm gets her powers back. So we're going to get the return of Storm soon, and we're going to get the return of Professor X for the finale. This next episode, which just aired 3 days ago, is titled Bright Eyes. Who has Bright Eyes? Gambit.
Remember me, Bright Eyes.
Remember me.
She punches Cable.
Exactly. This episode, building to the finale. A lot of reveals in this episode. So it starts with the X-Men holding a funeral from Gambit. It is important to note that there is no funeral shown for Magneto.
Now, is that because they couldn't locate his body and they had Gambit's body?
That's what had me wondering. Like, why aren't we getting a funeral for Magneto? But we get this funeral for Gambit, and it's done by Nightcrawler, and it's just beautiful. Like, Nightcrawler is my favorite X-Men, and this is just
Gambit's mine. Sorry. So,
no. Gambit,
Gambit, Bishop, Nightcrawler, Wolverine. That's mine. Sorry.
Nightcrawler, Gambit, Colossus, Iceman, Wolverine.
You and your Iceman.
I love Iceman. He's so underrated and so underused usually. Yeah. It's just powers are so dope. And he's an Omega level mutant too. So we'll take a look. Oh yeah. So Nightcrawler giving this funeral. It's very emotional. Rogue is not at the funeral, and everybody's wondering where she is. And Rogue is out basically whooping ass. She wants answers. She wants to know why the hell Gambit had to die. So Rogue is angrily searching for Gyrick, the senator, and Trask, who builds the Sentinels. And after gaining information from an Easter egg, not really Easter egg, but nice cameo, Thunderbolt Ross,
voiced by Josh Keaton, Spider-Man.
Go figure. How about that? That's cool. And she runs.
Wait, no, my bad. He voices the next person.
The next person, yes.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
So she runs into Thunderbolt Ross, which is a Hulk reference, and there's the whole thing there. But then she runs into somebody else, somebody very, very well known in the Marvel universe. You gonna say it? You're muted, so we can't hear you.
He's a Star-Spangled Man, Captain America.
With a plan, Captain America. When Captain America throws his mighty shield. Yes, we see Captain America. Now, Captain America was featured, I think it was season 4 of X-Men in a flashback episode. He has a relationship with Wolverine. We get this hint here in this talk with Captain America that we might get a future battle between X-Men and Avengers. Because Rogue is basically like, are you guys going to support us as everybody's attacking mutants and killing them? And, Captain America's like, well, it's more complicated than that. She's like, it ain't complicated. They're killing us. Like, and he says, my hands are tied. And she says, well, you won't be needing this. And she takes his shield from him and she whips it in the air a couple miles, and he looks pretty pissed off. It was a pretty good moment. So Rogue finds Henry Gyrick in Mexico in his prison, which is like a resort, and she absorbs his memories. And Henry Gyrick is actually killed later that night by a mysterious man who seems to be working with Sinister. Now, Sinister has been behind everything. So, while assisting the recovery efforts at Genosha, the X-Men are contacted by Trask. trash, who tells him that he is in Mandrapore. Mandrapore is a big city associated with Wolverine and the X-Men. Like
Patch.
it's a big deal. So they go pick up Rogue on the way. Sunspot and Jubilee visit Roberta's mother, tell her he's a mutant. She asks him to keep the identity secret, but she's okay with it. In Madripoor, the X-Men learn that Sinister is behind everything, but also a mysterious organization called OZT. OZT. And OZT has been developing a highly advanced Sentinel program. Rogue drops Trask to his death. So she grabs Trask after she finds this information and she drops him off a building in front of the other X-Men. And I think it was it Morph
Yeah,
that
he
was
goes,
okay with it?
"Is this who we are now?"
Oh,
No,
Morph's
Wolverine.
like, is this who we are? Who was
Wolverine was
okay
just
with
like,
it?
"Yeah." Wolverine. He was just
Yeah,
like,
Wolverine, yeah.
we were all thinking of it or something like that.
Yep. And Morph's like, I don't want to be this. I don't want this to be us. Yeah, it was a pretty big moment. She drops him to his death, but we find out that he ain't dead. He's actually part of a human Sentinel program. He is what is called a Prime Sentinel, where Sentinel technology has created a cyborg and
From
in
nanotech,
Trask.
right?
What's that?
From like it's from like nanites, right?
I think so. I think it's from Nanotech, but it's advanced technology that would eventually go and create a Sentinel called Nimrod. And those advanced Sentinels that are in Days of Future Past.
Basically, Nimrod can adapt to any ability, right?
Yeah.
Like and
Yep.
counter it. Yeah.
So we see that Nimrod is in the 92 version of Days of Future Past, and the Nimrods Nimrod's kind of like mixed with the Sentinels in the Days of Future Past movie, like how
Yeah.
they can adapt to stuff. So yeah, so they're fighting. Cable arrives, Cable, and he defeats Trask, and he explains that Sinister is not the main threat. That Sinister is working with somebody else. And it's revealed the big villain, the main villain, is somebody called Bastion. They don't say his name, but the caption showed me his name is Bastion, who reveals to Sinister that Xavier is alive, that he wants to reveal that the X-Men have been lying about his death. And we see that Bastion has Magneto prisoner, and Magneto is alive. So that's why he didn't get a funeral, because Magneto was alive. So yeah, we reveal the big villain. So who and the last 3 episodes of the show are titled Tolerance is Extinction, which we'll be talking about in a few weeks here. So, who the heck is Bastion? So, it's very possible that Bastion is going to be somebody else in the Bastion role from the past. It's probably going to be like that Creed guy, the other Creed guy that was like Nightcrawler's brother. It could be him. It could be Executioner. It could really be anyway. But in the comics, Bastion was this mysterious guy named Sebastian Gilberti, who risen to power in the U.S. government in a very short time. And he created a mutant task force or anti-mutant task force called Operation Zero Tolerance, which is what OZT stands for. And X-Men learned about the existence of OZT some months before it became fully public. And the X-Men kind of sneak into OZT headquarters and they find this guy named Bastion. And Bastion is basically like a master sentinel put together. He's like he's a fusion of Master Mold that can create sentinels and Nimrod that's an advanced thing that can take all their abilities. He's immune to telepathic probes and any mutant ability. He can adapt to any mutant ability. He has a technoforming. He has the ability to turn people into sentinels. He can command all sentinels. He has energy manipulation, teleportation, cryokinesis. I think maybe you can change time.
Freeze.
Chronokinesis. So
Chronokinesis is time.
he can change.
Cryo would be freezing.
Correct. Iceman. Superhuman strength, durability, and flight. So
he's
yeah.
OP.
He's extremely OP. Yes. So it's possible that he is the main villain, but it's possible it could be somebody else. Which
I think it's still him. I think he's the big bad of this season.
yeah.
And
Yeah, well, yeah, before the finale, sure.
well, I mean, there's three episodes left. They're called Operation Extinction or Tolerance is Extinction. I believe is the titles of Tolerance is Extinction Part 1, 2, and 3. The next 3 episodes.
The last 3 episodes are called Tolerance is Extinction. And this Bastion guy, his organization is called Operation Zero Tolerance.
Yeah, I mean there is another big bad that's coming that starts with an A. He's got to be coming. They keep showing him in the title.
Yeah. So they keep showing Apocalypse. That's who you mean, right? Apocalypse.
Yeah.
They keep showing Apocalypse, and they keep showing Phoenix. And I think that they're trying to hint at that. Okay, so one of the things in opening credits that we didn't mention that I said that everybody needs to look at is that in the first few episodes, so in the original show, in the original show, when they show Jean Grey, her hair is up in a ponytail.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And when this show started, you don't really catch it, like you don't think anything of it because everything's all new, but her hair is down.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Malin is revealed and the real Jean's back, they show Jean and the hair's up again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
except for this last episode, though. This whole last episode, she had her hair down.
Really?
Yeah, but it's not Madeline because I think even Bo DeMeo online said that she's dead.
That Malin is dead.
Yes.
Well,
and she was on the island of Genosha whenever. Yeah.
See, that's good. I'm glad she's dead because
wow.
Dude, this is coming from the guy that said that she had killed Aquaman's baby for story development.
I know, right?
I'm a monster. So, why did he get that hook in? Why? What the heck was I talking about? Yeah. Okay. So
Madeline being dead.
So, because they rushed that whole story, and we didn't get that growth and that development, Cyclops and Malin and Jean, we didn't get that love triangle for a while, and they rushed it. And you have her being a leader of Genosha already, like, and she's just became a character. Like, it's all rushed. So I feel like you can't go back and kind of like have that story grow. So if you just kill her off, like, and then whatever, you've already gone so far where you can't go back and fix what you already rushed. So it's whatever. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean it does make you think about like why they rush through so much. Like I get they want to tell a certain story,
sure,
but it's like you've already told some major stories, and this kind of goes into like what could be coming MCU future stuff. But it's like why they rush everything,
And so in our next episode, which I'll release later this week, we're gonna break down that Deadpool Wolverine trailer, and I have thoughts. I have many thoughts, and that could attribute to why this show is rushed.
Okay.
And we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. As we release that in a few days, probably Friday, as this releases Monday.
Yeah, we took a little too long.
We did.
Sorry.
I even tried to rush it, but it's okay.
We love
So
X-Men.
we
Like,
just we love X-Men so much. So I think I think it's very possible, and I'm going to talk about it in the Deadpool trailer breakdown. I think it's very possible that even Bastion is a red herring to who the real villain is. I really think that's possible.
I feel like I know where you're trying to go, and I don't think they're doing that in this cartoon.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
All right. We'll talk about that
Because
on the next.
the whole build up was that it was sinister, and so it has to be two things. It has to be either Bastion's real identity has to be a big one of who he really is, like who either that reveal has to be good, or it's not going to be anything at all, or the way that this show ends is not what you're going to think it's going to be. So let's finish up with our predictions here. I'm going to throw mine out, and then I want to hear yours. I think the way this show is going to end, I think Cyclops is going to leave the team, like for good. Maybe to form X Factor, but he's going to leave the team. I think that I
Well,
think the show
technically, X Factor is our. Oh no, that's X Force, right? The Forge team is X Force.
X Force. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that I think when Xavier comes back, something's going to happen where Cyclops. I think it's probably going to be an argument where Cyclops is like, you put your faith in Magneto, and you should have put it in me. And because you didn't put your faith in me, and you went and left us, and you're okay, and you went and left me, and you left us, and I lost so much, I'm done with the X-Men. So it's either going to be he's going to be completely done, period, or he's going to make his own team. And if he makes his own team, it's going to be because Xavier didn't choose. I think that we are going to get some more X-Men deaths. I think probably Morph is going to probably fully die. I think that might happen.
Nah, man, he's the cameos. He can't. He can't. We need him.
I don't know. I think we're going to see Nightcrawler, more Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I think that we will see the Avengers, maybe the full team come and help.
You think all of this is happening this season?
Yeah, oh yeah, in this 3-part finale, I think we'll see the Avengers. I think Cyclops will leave. It's a 3-part finale. That's like an hour and a half.
And the way they rush things, that's that's 2.5 hours worth of stuff.
Yeah, I know, right? Heck, that first episode is probably going to be all Xavier. Like, so when I go back to Earth, do I walk or should I get back in the wheelchair? Should I walk? you know, I think that's kind of probably going to happen, and I think that something huge is going to happen that's going to affect the mutant community big. I don't think it's going to end. I don't think we're going to have a good ending. I think it's going to be Empire Strikes Back type ending. It's going to
Avengers
be,
Infinity War type of ending
yeah, I really do.
for the season, like
Yeah,
leading
and
into.
I think we're going to get a whole new X-Men lineup. Uh,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
like whole new. I think we're gonna make Nightcrawler. I think the whole team. It's going to be like when Claremont took over originally and had the second Genesis story, where he brought in Colossus, Nightcrawler, Storm was brought in, Wolverine was brought in. I think we're going to get a mix of a whole new team. I think it's going to be it's probably going to be
Jubilee.
Jubilee. Wolverine might leave. Sunspot, Jubilee, Nightcrawler, Storm. Well,
Colossus. You say Colossus, right?
I don't know. We haven't got any hint of Colossus. I would really like Iceman to come back
Hey.
because I would really like that. An Angel. I would really like that. just have that little bit of that OG with the new one. But I think we're gonna get that, and I think that Gambit will return. I
Okay.
I, I do. I
You're more familiar with the comics, so I know you're thinking certain things. I'm thinking I
what
you started talking, and it did kind of make me think of something else that has come up, especially with the reveal of Magneto being alive, that there is going to be a bigger threat. But he's Bastion, I think, has been pulling the strings all along, since he can travel through time and stuff like that, right? So, I mean, obviously, there's a storyline. I don't want to. Am I allowed to say what I think, or
you can
like
say
you were kind of vague, so I didn't want to like.
you can say whatever the heck you want,
Um.
man.
Okay, so I keep hearing onslaught, and
Okay, so that is definitely what I think. If they do another season, I think they are doing another season.
it's already they got season 2
I think the next season
almost
is going to
done.
be Onslaught. It's going to be all Onslaught.
Okay,
Good.
so
My
there's that.
apologies.
No, no, you're fine. I didn't know if I was allowed to say something like that, but
This is
if I
my
just
freaking
throw out
podcast. You can say whatever you want.
well, I know, but spoilers and stuff. So, but if I just throw out a name, then it's like now people have to be like, "What Onslaught? Who's that?" And then look it up, and then they start learning stuff, and it's like, "All right."
Oh, we're
Um,
going to teach you about Onslaught. Finn should not know
um,
Onslaught.
so yeah, so there's that. I do think I've kind of already mentioned Apocalypse. Obviously, he's got to come back. So I don't know if he's coming back this season, though. To be honest, I think Phoenix Force is going to show back up. I mean, but it only 3 episodes. Like it just seems like a lot to happen in 3 episodes. You still have to get the team to basically come back. I do believe Scott's leaving after this season because his life is in shambles. Him and Jean
Yep.
ain't on and if Magneto or if Professor X comes back, he's definitely gonna be like, "Why, bro?" So,
If
uh,
there's any prediction that I feel 100% is going to happen, it's going to be Cyclops leaving.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if Jean goes with him or stays, that's the question.
I want her to stay with Wolverine.
It's
That's
not
what I want.
happening, bro. Wolverine already accepted like
Yeah.
it's supposed to be Scott and Jean. Because the other thing is
Uh,
Scott and Jean have their own kids, right? They do have their own.
Eventually,
They have a
yes.
daughter, right?
Eventually. Eventually, yes.
So I don't know. There's a lot. I'm
It's a
looking forward to it. So this show is good.
lot.
People
This show's
watch.
great. Oh, it's so good. Even the rushing of things, it's so great. So, yeah, that is X-Men 97. We are very very excited for the finale coming up. We're going to delve into that. Join us in a few days for what was originally supposed to be part of this episode, but we're going to make it another episode. The breakdown of the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer that just dropped. I have a lot to say about that. So, this has been Brian the Guys, and I've been Brian Peters. You're
And
welcome.
I've been Fincherine.
Fincher. Thanks for joining us today. I hope that you're enjoying the show as much as we are. And yeah, send us some messages. Send us your thoughts. Do you think we're going to see Onslaught? Do you think that Scott's going to leave the team? Do you think we're going to see the Phoenix Apocalypse? What do you think is going to happen? Hit us up. Let us know. Thank you so much for joining us. And you can find Brian the Guys on Instagram, Facebook, maybe Threads. Do I have a Threads for? I might, but you can find us anywhere. Thank you so much, and you have a great day.